for the best car SUV.
Hello and welcome to the Frontier Motor Show. This is Iven Streckel, owner of Frontier Motors, and we have been broadcasting the show for about 25 years now. And for the next half an hour, we've been talking about what's going on in the automobile industry, not only in Pensacola, but also nationwide and worldwide. A lot of things happening right now, and let's get right to it. Number one thing that everybody has probably heard a little bit, if you've ever watched the news, is there is a microchip shortage in the world, and they use between 2,000 and 2,300 microchips when they produce a car. So when you're short on microchips, you've got a problem. I think when the pandemic hit last year, they canceled a lot of their orders. General Motors, Ford, all of the manufacturers thought that the amount of new car sales were going to go into the toilet, which they did for about 2 months, but then they came roaring back. And when they came roaring back, the chip companies have sold their chips to other types of industries, like Samsung, for instance, and Apple, and a lot of the chips being used in all of the electronics is where those chips went. So they have been caught with their pants down, and it not only has been bad, it's getting worse. There are some dealerships in the nation that are down to almost zero cars in inventory. They had one dealership that was a Chevrolet dealership up north that had one Blazer in stock. That's it. I'm trying to figure out how these dealers are staying alive as far as not selling anything, not making any money on their new cars. Of course, they do have service to generate, and most of the new car dealers will not only have service, they'll have a parts department, they'll have a used car department, and they will also have a body shop. Most of them do, so perhaps they can hold out. But the forecast is pretty gloom. Matter of fact, they're saying that right now worldwide this year's, the estimate is 8.5 million cars are going to be affected and that they're not going to be making because of the chip shortage. Auto industry shortage of semiconductors still grew worse last week, causing the forecasters to ratchet up worst case scenarios. The forecaster now estimates the global industry is 8.5 million vehicles. The shortage shows no sign of easing soon. That's what everybody was asking me. Well, when is this going to be over with? It started about not quite a year and a half ago, but over a year ago, the chip shortage started. And what that meant initially is that they were forced to not build certain vehicles because they didn't have the chips. Some vehicles they actually did build, but they marked them with, they built them and they put them in warehouses and lots until the chips came in, and they would install the chips and then send them out to the dealerships. So what does this mean to you? Well, this means to you that when you go to a new car dealer, the amount of inventory to look at has been diminished and depleted. And extremely, I mean by an extreme that you've never seen before. I know that I've got a friend that runs a Chevrolet dealership in Wisconsin, and they said this next month coming in, they are actually the largest Chevrolet dealership in Wisconsin. It's called Holtz Chevrolet, and next month they're anticipating getting 15 new cars in stock. And of course, every one of those cars that are coming, when I say in stock, means they're going to hit the lot, but they're all pre-sold. So what that means to you, again, is that the margins of these cars, you remember a couple of years ago, you'd walk into a new car dealer, and this has been going on for decades and decades, and the question always was like, well, what's your best deal? Now people are happy they can even find the vehicle. There's no such thing as a best deal. Some dealers are being very obnoxious in their marketing by they're not advertising this, but by marking their vehicles up thousands of dollars over sticker price. Matter of fact, last Sunday, I took my bicycle over to Car City and I visited all the lots, and I was surprised on the amount of markup. I knew that dealers had been marking up new cars for quite some time. Even before the pandemic, there were some dealers that put an addendum sticker on their new cars. You know, you'd have the new car manufacturer's suggested list price. Let's just say that was $35,000. Then they would have a little addendum they would put right next to that new car sticker, and they would normally be for things like rust proofing, undercoating, paint treatment, gloss treatment. If it had fabric interior, they would put a Scotch guarding type process on there. They would have some sort of aftermarket products added to that addendum sticker. Sometimes it was with something like running boards or upgraded wheels and tires, pinstriping, tinted glass. And of course, they would mark those add-ons up significantly to increase the price and the profit of the vehicle. And sometimes they did that because the new cars have such a small markup, and yet people were walking in wanting that big discount. I remember when I got in the car business as far as selling, in 1975, I sold Chevrolets, brand new Chevrolets in Wisconsin, and the markup on a $10,000 Caprice Classic, for example, was 25%. So that car would cost the dealer $7,500. So you had $2,500 either to make as a profit or to be able to discount and give to the customer. Those days are over. But customers still want a deal. So what do the dealers do? They have to add things onto their car and put an obnoxious profit on those items so that they have the ability to deal off the price of the car, or perhaps give you more money for a trade-in. Remember, it was always that game, like, how do you know if you're getting a good deal for your trade-in? Because the car would be marked up so high, and then they could give you more money for your trade-in, because some people would say, well, I'm not taking $10,000 for my car. I know my car's worth $13,000. Well, if they've got $5,000 worth of markup on their car, they can give you that extra money for the trade-in. So it got a little bit confusing. And on a different note, that's why we advertise only look at one thing when you're negotiating on the price of a car. Look at the out-the-door price and get that out-the-door price in writing, not on the back of a business card, but have them show you how they split everything up. And that's what we do at Frontier Motors automatically with every customer that asks us that question. What's your best possible deal if they find a car on our lot that they like? And at that point, the salesperson goes to the manager and says, what's our best possible deal on this car? The manager will look up the cost. They will add a profit. Then they will add the taxes, the title. If you've got a trade-in, they'll take off the value of the car. Of course, there's a little bit of a tax savings. You'll pay less taxes if you have a trade-in. Then they tax it. Then they put the dock fee on there, the tax on the dock fee, the tag transfer, the title fee, anything that's pertinent to that deal. And then they circle what I call the out-the-door price in writing, and that should include everything. And then you go to the next dealer if you want. A lot of people want to go shop because they're not sure. And then you get that figure from the next dealer. And of course, I always say that if the next dealer won't give you that figure, make sure that you hightail it and walk out. Because if they're not proud of the figure, they shouldn't be earning your business. Now, the reason we've advertised doing this for years and years and years, going on 25 years now, is because we do a lot of research that when we give you that price, that we have the best deal. Not necessarily the best price, by the way. There's a difference between having the best price and having the best, what I call, deal. They are called car dealerships. This is Frontier Motors. We are a used car dealership. So you want to get a deal. That's why they're called dealerships. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the best bottom line price. In the way that we always advertise the fact that we have the best deal is the number one thing that I put all my eggs into is the condition of the car. Condition. When you're selling real estate, it's all location. Well, in the car business, it's not so much location because we can ship a car anywhere for not very much money. It's the condition of that car. And when I go to the auction, for example, they rate their cars by condition at the auction from 0, which would be a total wreck, to 5, which is absolutely brand new, no nicks, no scratches. So when I go car shopping, if it's not a 4 or above, I don't even look the car up. Most cars that are rated at auctions at even a 4.5, I don't buy. They have to be even above that. I don't like taking cars home and doctoring them up. I want to buy a car that's been well taken care of, that's like brand new, that doesn't smell, that doesn't have scratches on it, that has no issues, and I'll pay more money for that car, therefore you'll pay more money for that car. And then other things come into effect also, which is not just the condition, but also the mileage is very important. If my car's got 15,000 less miles on it, obviously that's going to affect the price of the car. It'll also affect the drivability and the longevity of that vehicle. The other thing that we look at is the color of the car, and a good looking color is going to sell for more than an ugly color. And you can tell by sales which colors people seem to like more than others. For example, if it's a Lexus, the number one selling color in a Lexus for years and years has been pearl white. That pearl white is a beautiful color. That's the number one seller. Now, if you see a pearl white one and you're looking at a purple one, there might be as much of a difference as $1,000 to $2,000 on the price of that car just based on color alone. A lot of people don't know that. So they say, well, I found one over in Miami and it's $1,500 cheaper. I said, well, look at it. It's purple with a pink interior. Interior, it's not going to be the same price. And of course, the other thing to look at is equipment. So the equipment has a lot to do with it, especially on some of the higher line products. For example, on a Mercedes and a BMW and an Audi, you would think that when their base price is quite expensive, if an Audi base price on a car is $60,000, you think almost everything would be included, but it's not. You can easily get that $60,000 car up to $85,000 just based on equipment that is an added options, a different package that go on top of that base price. So equipment is very, very important, and especially if it's safety-related equipment. Most people will pay more for safety, especially cars that stop automatically, cars that have blind spot monitoring, cars that have the adaptive automatic cruise control where the car slows down or speeds up when you set your cruise on 70 miles an hour, for example. These are all things that make a difference in between making up the blended price of having the best price out there versus the best deal out there. So I got off the track a little bit because we're talking about new cars and what I found out when I took the bicycle and how they had their markup. Well, there's one dealer that's got a dealer markup on all their pickup trucks at $7,000. So they're calling this a marketing adjustment. Now, they never had that 2 years ago. There was no marketing adjustment on pickup trucks. They might still have the options they add afterwards, the little dealer installed stuff like, the plastic inserts for the box, the spray and bed liners, step bars, wheel well moldings. Those are little add-ons, but I'm talking about a straight out giving you nothing for your money marketing adjustment. Matter of fact, I saw one of their large vehicles, and I'm not going to mention the dealer's name. They already don't like me the way it is, but the vehicle they had on the lot was a large SUV. It had an $11,000 dealer marketing adjustment on there. Now, what is that? What that is based on supply and demand. We can ask $11,000 over list price for this vehicle. And why are they doing that? Well, one reason they're doing that is because they're not getting any other ones in. So instead of getting 20 in and making $1,000 a piece, they're getting one and making $20,000, total with all their dealer markups and things like that. So I can kind of see why they're doing it, but the person that's buying that vehicle is paying way too much. And it's not just on that vehicle, it's even on the smaller vehicles. There's another dealer across the street in Car City that has a dealer markup, dealer marketing adjustment of $3,500 on every car. Even the inexpensive $20,000 brand new cars are now $23,500. So it's not a good time to buy a brand new car in my mind because there are slim pickings out there. So people are used to going on a lot and having hundreds and hundreds of cars to choose from. Well, that same lot that might have 400 cars in inventory now has 40 cars in inventory. And usually the ones that are left on the lot are the ugly ones. I talked about before that the ugly ones are going to be a little cheaper. Well, they're not when they're new. If you buy let's use a Dodge Challenger, for example. If you buy a black Dodge Challenger, which was probably their number one color on Dodge Challenger, being a sporty car, either red or black, or you buy a purple one where they're brand new, if they're got the same equipment, they're all $45,000, the color is the same price, no matter where you go. Matter of fact, there are some colors that are more expensive than others, but for example, on BMW, they only have 3 BMWs, and last time I looked at the 3 Series that are standard, and the rest of them are all a $600 or $700 option. But under normal circumstances, if you're looking at a Nissan Sentra, all the colors are pretty much the same price. But an ugly one, when they're brand new, sell for the same as a good looking one. Well, not on the used car market. And that's why it's really a good time to buy a used car. And of course, that's where Frontier Motors comes in. Being in business for 25 years, we stock anywhere from 300 to 400 vehicles in inventory at all times. Now, right now, I think when I looked this morning, we were at about 320. And that's another little side note that I always put. That means I'm 80 cars short of my goal of having 400 cars in inventory at all times, which leads me to advertise that I would love to buy your vehicle. I see people putting their cars on Facebook Marketplace, on Craigslist, on Cars.com. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's a little scary when you have people coming over. And I noticed, and as you noticed, that every night the sun goes down a little faster, which means it gets dark a little bit faster. And we're going to blink in another month and a half. It's going to get dark at 5 o'clock at night. And most people work till 5 o'clock. So when they come over to your house off of Facebook Marketplace to look at your car, it's dark out, which means they can't see it very well anyway. So they can't see its scratches. And they're going to say, well, I want to take the car for a ride. Then I'm going to come back on the weekend when it's daylight. And then I want to get it inspected. And I want to know if you'll take a little less for it. And I want to know if you'll take a trade-in. Hey, by the way, would you finance it for me if I give you a couple of $1,000s? These are all the things that you run across when you put your vehicle up for sale. Well, why not just drive it over to Frontier Motors, 230 Beverly Parkway in the middle of Escambia County. In 15 minutes, we will give you a buy bid in writing. 15 minutes. Now, the reason I can advertise that is because I've always got three. We've got 5 people that can put buy bids on vehicles. 3 of them are always here because the other 2 are off. They're not here or they're at the auction. But I always have 3 people here, so I can advertise that in 15 minutes. I can give you a bid on a car, and that's a buy bid in writing. And you can, if you got the title in your back pocket, we'll write you a check for that vehicle instantaneously. And you can get a ride home. You can Uber home. If you're within the area, we'll give you a ride home. And that's how simple it can be. And you don't have to worry about being scammed. And I love buying from private individuals because I can interview you as far as how long you've had the car. Has it ever been in an accident? When was the last time you had the oil change? Is there anything that it needs that you would fix if you were going to, drive this car cross country? What would you do to it to get this car ready for a long trip? And it's nice to be able to talk to the person that knows about it. And I'll tell you, most people that I've talked to are very honest. That if there's an issue with the car, they'll tell me right off the bat. And the older cars I can't buy at the auction because I can't talk to the owner. The auctions won't guarantee them. So if I get a bad car, I'm pretty much stuck with it. So I don't buy the older cars that are out of warranty at the auctions. The cars that I buy at the auctions are the ones that are warranted by the auction, which are like the vehicle behind me. You'll notice there's a Jeep Wrangler in the background. That is a 2021 Wrangler with 400 miles on. Matter of fact, it's a new Wrangler they just came out with about 10 months ago. And it's the 392. Excuse me. If you don't know what that is the first time in 40 years that the Jeep Wrangler has come from the factory with a 470 horsepower V8 motor with silent choice exhaust. What that means is you can flip the switch and you're going to have the power go right out the exhaust. It's got 4 exhaust pipes on it, and you can flip it and it'll be as quiet as if it's a 4-cylinder Wrangler. So it's a pretty cool vehicle, and that's the type of vehicle that we advertise that we buy from auctions. And when I bought this at the Orlando auction, I purchased it because they guarantee it. So if there's an issue with the vehicle, let's say the vehicle's been in a major accident, that has to be disclaimed. Excuse me, disclaimed by. Let me get a drink here. Disclaimed by the auction. So when I buy that vehicle and it's rated a 5, they're pretty much saying it is perfect. If it's not, I can send it back. They even pay for the shipping for me. Those are the vehicles that we buy at the auctions. Now, we are a used car dealer, so when I sell that Wrangler, even though it's a 2021 with 400 miles on it, I have to sell it as used because we are not Hill Kelly. We do not sell brand new Wranglers. I can't advertise that I sell new Wranglers. Now, I can advertise that I sell like new Wranglers. And of course, when I went to their inventory, they didn't have one of these in stock. Very few dealers have one of these because they just came out. They're very, very rare. And we had one last week that I bought, and we sold it in like 3 days. It was gone. This one we just hit the lot a couple of days ago, so I'm sure it's not going to last. And we've got 5 Jeep Wranglers in inventory. And of course, our whole claim to fame is that we compete with new car dealers. We don't really have too many used car dealers that we compete with because most used car dealers stock a lot of the older cars. I'm talking about cars with 140, 150,000 miles on it. We do take vehicles like that in trade, and then we do our due diligence by getting them inspected to make sure if they still have life left in them, we will sell a 140,000 mile Honda Civic, for example. anything that has a good reputation we'll still put on the lot, because a lot of these vehicles will last for 250 to 300,000 miles on it. Consumer Reports had an article last year, and they had the top 15 vehicles that are most likely to hit 300,000 miles. And I was surprised that a lot of domestics were on there, like the Suburban, the Ford Expedition. Of course, a lot of imports, more imports than domestics, but they did have a lot of domestics on there that they thought with the original engine and transmission, they would easily hit 300,000 miles. Some of the vehicles that were on the list was a lot of Toyotas, like the Tundra, the Tacoma, the 4Runner, the Sequoia, the Sienna. A lot of Toyotas were on there, but also, like I said, a lot of domestics, the Yukon, the Expedition, and the Tahoes were on there. Some of the pickup trucks were on there also. So I am not saying not to buy a vehicle with 150,000 miles on it, especially if that's your budget. I always tell people, just make sure you get it inspected. We do the best we can to make sure we put a good product out there, even if they're an older vehicle like that. And you'll be surprised when you come on the lot how many vehicles we have on the lot, usually between 150 and 200 of them that are like new. What I mean by that, that are less than maybe 15 or 16 months old. They have taken the brunt of the depreciation. According to Consumer Reports, the first year's depreciation on the average over the last decade has been 26%, which is quite, the average new car last year sold for $36,000. By the way, that has gone way up to way over $42,000 just in 1 year alone. Usually that changes by about maybe $700 or $800 per year, but this year it's changed by about $4,000 because the price of new cars have gone up so much because they can. They've done that because they know that we're not going to be building that many because of the chip shortage. So the inventories are going to be depleted. So what they're doing to make up for that is by increasing the price of the cars. The manufacturers are increasing the price of the cars to the dealer, and the dealer are increasing the price to the customers. And then they're going one step further by marking them up. Sometimes it's driven by supply and demand, which I guess this is all right now driven by supply and demand based on the chip shortage. But there's some cars that have had this going on even before the pandemic, even before the chip shortage. And I'll give you an example, the Chevrolet Corvette. The 2020 Corvette came out 2.5 years ago. They were selling between $20,000 to $30,000 over the list price immediately, and they still are. And that has nothing to do with the chip shortage. It's just that they were only building about 25,000 of them a year. If they sell 35,000 a year, there's people waiting over a year to get one of these cars, these new Corvettes. So they are selling to the highest bidder. And they're taking them to the auction. Chevrolet dealerships are taking some of their brand new Corvettes to the auction, selling them to used car dealers, not me. For example, I have yet to have a new body style Corvette because I refuse to pay $20,000 over list price for a car and then mark it up to my customer that walks in. Well, that's not a good deal for the customer. And I'm not even ripping them off by making more money. I'm just paying more for that car. And that's why I refuse to buy them until they come down to where they're going to be a good deal for everybody involved. And that happened with the Mustang. When the Mustang changed their body style 3 or 4 years ago, they were selling for $2,000 over list price. That lasted. The norm is about 6 months until production keeps up. Well, what's happening right now, production is not keeping up because of chip shortage. So that shortage of cars is going to be out there for, I'm going to be guessing, another 1.5 years. We're going to be going through this, which means that if you're buying a new car, you're going to want one. You're going to have to want one really bad. I had a customer come in the other day, and he was looking at I think it was a Kia Telluride, and they were charging about $2,000 over list price for the car. And he says, "Well, I want you to get me a used one." I says, "No." He said, "What do you mean, no?" I says, "They're at the auctions. I can buy them at the auctions, but they're going for $2,000 over list price for a used one. Unless I get a bargain on one, which I haven't been able to do. Actually, I did buy one last week, my first one, that I got a bargain on, that I can compete with the new one because the new ones are so much more than the list price." And I told him, I says, if you can buy one for list price, he ended up going over to Mississippi and buying one for list. And it's so interesting because he walked in and told us about it. And he says, I always want to get a deal on a car. He says, I felt that I could get $3,000 or $4,000 discount. That's what most people that have been buying cars for years and years, they can get $3,000 or $4,000 off with rebates and all that other stuff they throw at you. He says, I was happy that I only had to pay list price on a car. What has this world come to when list price is a good deal? So a little bit about Frontier Motors. Again, also, folks, we have these price lists we make up every day for our customers. So for those of you that are kicking tires, you don't know what you want, and you're here on the lunch hour, our salespeople unlock every single car every morning, which is quite frustrating when you come on a car lot that does have a lot of cars and every car is locked. Because the number two thing that you do when you look at a car, other than the exterior looks of the car, is what's the next thing? Number two, slip behind the wheel and see how it fits you. How are the blind spots? How is the dashboard? What's the visibility like? Is the seat adjustable? If you're short, if you're 5 feet tall, will the seat go up to where you can reach the pedals properly? These are things that are very important. And when the cars are locked, it takes a long time for that salesman to run back and forth on every car you're looking at. What if you're looking at 20 different cars? A lot of our customers come in and they go back behind where I've got this Wrangler. Our inventory starts there and they look at 20 or 30 cars in an hour's time. Isn't it nice to be able to slip behind the wheel of each particular car immediately? Then we give you the list that if you want to shop without a salesperson being present, we've got 12 salespeople. They'll be more than happy to walk through you and tell you about every individual car without putting any pressure on you and talking stupid, like asking you, like, what would it take to sell you a car today? What do I got to do? We don't ever do that. What we do is we show you all the cars, and I kind of make fun of our salespeople a lot of times because I don't feel our salespeople sell cars. I feel they're more of an order taker. They show cars, they'll tell you the benefits of a particular car, and then they'll go to the manager and say, give me your best bottom line price in writing that I can give to the customer. So if they want to shop around, they'll know what our price is. And that the two things you want to know about is the number one, the car. If you don't like the car, the color, the way it sits, the way it fits, you're not going to buy it anyway. So the price is really immaterial. The next thing is, if you do like the car, you like everything about it, next thing you want to know is, what's your bottom line price? And we're very proud to give you a bottom line price in writing because we know that when it comes time to decision making, we're going to be the ones that you deal with, not based on just the price alone, but the product that we're giving you. People are always talking about, man, I can't believe these are used cars. Even the cars that we have on a lot that are 5 and 6 years old, they look like brand spanking new. Now check out Frontier Motors on our website. By the way, if you know anybody that's looking for a car, tell them to go on YouTube or Facebook, and this show will be on there. You can find it by just putting in Frontier Motors, so they can watch the show and you can let them know that there is a dealer out there that's not just there to grab your wallet and sign you up and sell your car, but to give you good advice that when you're in the market for a car, even if it's at another car dealership, that we will tell you what that car should sell for. We will do the Carfax history report on that car for you at no charge. They're about $40 to run a Carfax report. We do them for $0 for you, even if you find another car dealership. A lot of car dealers don't want to pay for the Carfax report, so they don't run them for you. And of course, you don't want to buy any car without at least looking at the history report and, of course, getting inspected. So check us out on our website at frontiermotorsinc.com. Just Google Frontier Motors, and you will see 320 cars in inventory as of this morning. At least 30 photographs. They all have pricing on there. Unless I just bought them yesterday or the day before, we price them right off the bat so you know exactly what that car is going to run you. And then there's a little link to get your best out-the-door figure where we're going to calculate the taxes and everything else. There's also a little program on there where we evaluate your car for you online. Of course, the best way to do it is just to bring it down to 230 Beverly Parkway and let us look at that car and give you a bottom line price in writing. When we can see the car and feel the car, we might be able to give you more money because we'll know exactly, especially if you've got a really clean car. You can't sometimes see that on pictures. So again, thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Get the word out that Frontier Motors is here to help you, not just to grab your wallet. Have a great day. Auf Wiedersehen.
Looking for the best car, SUV, or truck? Guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we've got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.